When I built my first store, it seemed like a lot of money back in the day, in 1995. I was pretty scared, and I was thinking to myself, like every day when I went home, is this really something smart I should be doing, or I should just stay conservative and stay where I'm at and never do anything different? And, somebody gave me some advice a long time ago: do something every day that scares you. And so I've always thought like that. And so I don't think it's possible to, as an entrepreneur, to get really successful without taking on risk. I got to a point where I was acquiring so many stores and really wasn't organized to do it, but I was a deal junkie and I knew they were good deals, so I couldn't help myself. But I really was that's how I ended up with EOS, candidly, because I got to a point where I had a bunch of stores. I think I had 8 stores at the time, and we were definitely disorganized in my mind. Probably not in other people's minds, but in my mind, we were disorganized. So, nobody floats through life, successfully without doing something that's risky. Maybe just use educated risk, stay in your swim lane and, understand your business, every nuance you can, and hire the best people you can.
Many business deals, it's sort of a buyout over time. So you want to make sure. The fear is, we're always dependent on having a steady inflow of clients and making sure we keep our clients happy. So like any other business, you fear that, well, what happens if something goes wrong next year and we lose business and we don't have, I'm not able to sustain this. So I think that was the biggest fear. Like, how can I make sure that every single year we've got, what it takes to both, keep my level of salaries up and pay my people what they're worth, and also continue the buyout of the company, making sure that Marcy's getting her compensation. So I'm sort of over that fear. I've made it a few years, but I think that's the biggest thing is just wanting to make sure you always are financially in a position to take care of everything you need to take care of. I think it's a constant evolution. And I think the biggest thing is to always be willing to learn from your employees, from your clients, from the people around you, and to never feel like you're too important not to take a step back and learn from the people around you. I've got one of the things that's, I think, the most amazing, I will tell you, hands down, I have the most fabulous team in my 32 employees. They are the best people, and they are what the organization is. I am not Brogan Partners. They are Brogan Partners. And I think that the most important thing is to realize that you can learn so much when you stop and listen, and that you are never too old or too smart to stop learning.
I think I have fears every day. So I still do. I did then, I do now. So the fear is a motivator for me. So not like a freak out fear, no, but I was always scared. Of course, when you first buy your first trucks and your rollers and you're signing credit lines, and we had several scares along the way, real financial scares. But I get nervous every day. I'm not nervous, but fear is a motivator, and it always has been for me. It's fear, but I control it extremely well. I always looked at work like a coat. Like if you're leaving your house in the morning, I put my work coat on and I go to work. And then when I go home, I take my coat off, I put it in the closet and focus on my wife and my kids. It's a skill set that I think you have to have and you have to develop if you're going to have any sense of balance in life. And I realized at a very young age, I needed to develop that skill set, or one, my marriage would fall apart. I wouldn't be a good father. So very long ago, I learned how to do it, and I've done it my whole life, and I still do it to this day. And I just do it. It's a skill, just like learning how to do a computer or doing spreadsheets. It's a skill. So you have to learn to control your emotions, and that's what I did at a young age.
The fears kind of came a little bit later. When you've got a check from the bank to operate and to purchase some equipment and to dress up a rental location, do some advertising, some marketing. That all seems fine. There's really no pressure because you've got some sort of income. at least you've got some money to spend. It was probably about a year into it when I realized that even though I only moved a couple of miles from my location at home, none of my customers followed me. It was a convenience thing. So we were really starting over. I was really starting over with a whole new client base, and that's when things got a little tough. I did take on a business partner for just a short period of time. We used his capital investment to try to expand, and we expanded way too early. We made some mistakes along the way. Ultimately, I found a way to buy him out and go back to 100% ownership. And that's when it completely fell on my shoulders, and I think that's when it started sinking in. So it wasn't the day that we opened that I was super nervous. It was probably about a year or two later, and then that goes on for quite a while until you can kind of meet those cash flow goals. So I appreciate that formidable part of my life, but I'm just glad I'm not there anymore.
I never had fear to start the business, but I have had and still do have fear of not being successful or not meeting my own potential. And that has worked to my benefit at times and also to my detriment, because, the drive is there and that's a positive thing. And I'm always wanting to grow and learn. And that's really baked into my values and our core values at my company at imageOne. On the detriment side, sometimes I might lose sight of what has been accomplished and lose sight of the wins and the successes along the way and the good things that we've done. And so I've had to make that a practice to reflect and learn to be grateful for the little things that happen along the way and the big things that those are easy usually to celebrate. And I've also had to learn how to celebrate. I'm kind of an even-keeled person. I don't get low, I don't get high. And so when we have, challenging times, I can handle it pretty well. And when we have really great times and big successes, I handle that in a way where you don't sense a great deal of excitement from me. And that translates over to the team. And so I've really had to practice too, how to go about celebrating and really work hard to be a lifter upper.
Yeah, I think the biggest fears, fear of failure, right? And fear of, going away from corporate America, getting an outdated resume and then having to go back. And what would that look like? How would I show up to friends, family, not succeeding? And then ultimate responsibility for, I wanted to do a great job for these families I was trying to take care of. I didn't want to let them down, right? And I didn't want to let any employees down that I wound up hiring and felt kind of responsibility for. And so, my success determined their ability to have, great care on the client side and have a dependable job that they enjoyed on the employee side. And that's a lot to shoulder. There's so much that I loved about being an entrepreneur in those early days, but it's a really lonely place to be. That's why I think those people who have been on that journey that can be that safe place to go to of here's what the day looked like and here's what I'm struggling with was really, really important.
I think the biggest fear is just failure. And for me, I knew logically that I was going to be okay, even if I failed. But I just didn't want to fail in a way that was bad. So like for us, like food can get people sick. That's a scary thing. That's an intimidating thing that you need to learn a lot about and take seriously. I mean, in the first months, it was only me. And I had a lot of family and friends that thought it was fun to come and blend fruit at 7 p.m. or whatever. And then by the second year, we hired 2 people. And then at that point, the biggest fear after you start to kind of, and I still do. I mean, it's just like, it's all a imposter syndrome thing a little bit. Like there's really nothing that I know differently than the majority of the employees here, but somehow I'm in this position, and it's a big responsibility to not be careless with that. I didn't really feel like it that much with my brother. He joined the company. He quit his job as a lawyer. 2 months in, I asked him, said, "Hey, I'm gonna have to hire somebody, or you can be a 50-50 partner," because he'd been helping me, and we've been dreaming all this stuff up together. He had just finished his law degree and had a job as a lawyer. So he keeps the note that my dad wrote him about, please don't go leave your law job to join your brother, which might have been good advice in some perspectives, but we always joke about it as a family now. So, well, I'm lucky in that I've got a partner. So a lot of people don't have, and there's a lot of disadvantages, I think, to having just a 50-50 partner. It's like, says not to do it in basically like every business book, I think. But I've got that, whereas like we can talk just about everything endlessly. So I don't ever feel like I'm alone on anything, and that's super nice. And then I've gotten more confident, and just I do believe, where in the same token that I don't think that like I know any like special magic tricks that's going to make sure we never go out of business. I mean, especially in 2020, it was, I think everyone in the world saw that a little bit, is like the best plans you could have possibly had couldn't have prepared you. So it's just, and that's an extreme example of really every day. I mean, there's things that could happen any day that are beyond your control that could derail your plans. I also believe that I do have something to add, and that we have cultivated a powerful culture, and I think I'm good at kind of incubating and growing that.